Imagine hearing a deafening roar outside your window. You rush to the door, expecting an explosion. Instead, a towering wave, nearly as high as a two-story building, is racing toward you. Not water, not mud, molasses. Within seconds, buildings collapse. People are swept away. Horses struggle desperately. Entire streets disappear beneath a river of sticky brown syrup. It sounds impossible. Yet on one winter afternoon in 1919, this unbelievable event became one of America's strangest and deadliest industrial disasters. But was it simply a tragic accident? Or did hidden decisions make catastrophe inevitable? Tonight, we uncover the remarkable true story of the Great Molasses Flood. Before we dive deeply, kindly subscribe to my page, follow, like, and share for more hidden history, untold stories, and fascinating historical mysteries. January 1919. Boston was changing rapidly. The city bustled with factories, docks, railroads, and immigrant neighborhoods. Ships from around the world unloaded goods into one of America's busiest ports. Among the many products moving through Boston, one stood above the rest: molasses. Today it's associated with baking and cooking. But in the early 20th century, molasses had another important use. It was a key ingredient in producing industrial alcohol. And industrial alcohol mattered enormously. It was used in manufacturing chemicals, medicines, and military supplies. The First World War had recently ended. Demand remained high. Large storage tanks lined Boston's waterfront. One of them would soon become infamous. The enormous steel tank stood in Boston's North End. It was approximately 50 feet tall and about 90 feet across. It could hold roughly 2.3 million gallons of molasses. Neighborhood children sometimes played nearby. Residents later recalled hearing strange metallic groans from the structure. Some said it leaked so often that local children collected dripping molasses in cans. While these recollections appear in later accounts, historians note that memories recorded after disasters can sometimes become shaped by subsequent events. Even so, surviving evidence shows the tank had experienced leakage. Workers reportedly painted it brown, a decision some later interpreted as an attempt to make leaks less noticeable. Whether intended for appearance or maintenance, the image became part of the disaster's legacy. In January 1919, another shipment arrived. Thousands of tons of warm molasses were pumped into the already partially filled tank. Temperature changes likely affected pressure inside the structure. Engineers have long noted that steel expands and contracts with temperature. The fresh shipment increased internal stress. Yet few people suspected what was about to happen. Life continued normally. Workers loaded freight. Children walked home from school. Families prepared dinner. Then everything changed. At approximately 12:40 p.m. on January 15, 1919, witnesses described hearing sounds like machine gun fire or thunder. The steel tank burst. Millions of gallons of molasses exploded outward. The wave is often estimated to have reached around 25 feet high in places, though its height varied across the surrounding streets. It raced through the neighborhood with tremendous force. Buildings splintered. Railway tracks twisted. Support columns collapsed. People, wagons, and horses were thrown aside. This was no slow-moving spill. Initially, the wave surged with extraordinary momentum before gradually slowing as the molasses spread and cooled. Rescue workers entered a scene unlike anything they had experienced. Victims struggled to move through thick syrup. The cold January air caused the molasses to become increasingly viscous. Every step became exhausting. Firefighters, police officers, doctors, sailors, volunteers, all worked together. The rescue lasted for days. Tragically, 21 people lost their lives, and around 150 others were injured. The human cost transformed what might otherwise have been remembered as an odd industrial accident into a profound tragedy. Cleaning Boston proved almost as challenging as surviving the flood. Molasses coated streets, buildings, vehicles, and equipment. Harbor waters turned brown. Workers flushed roads with seawater. Residue lingered for weeks. Some newspapers claimed that people tracked sticky footprints throughout the city. Stories later emerged that traces of molasses could still be found years afterward. Such accounts became part of local folklore, though they are difficult to verify in detail. Attention soon turned to one critical question: why did the tank fail? Investigators examined its construction. Evidence suggested the tank may not have been adequately tested before being placed into service. Questions arose regarding its design, rivets, steel quality, and inspection process. At the time, engineering standards were less rigorous than those required today. The disaster sparked one of the longest and most significant civil lawsuits in Massachusetts history. After years of testimony, experts presented competing explanations. The company argued that the tank had been damaged by sabotage. Some suggested anarchists might have planted explosives, reflecting widespread fears during the turbulent years after World War I. Investigators carefully considered these claims. Ultimately, the court concluded that the failure resulted primarily from inadequate construction and engineering rather than sabotage. The judgment became a landmark in corporate accountability and engineering responsibility. Here's something many people don't realize. The Great Molasses Flood helped change how large industrial structures were regulated. The disaster contributed to stronger expectations for engineering review, permitting, and inspection. Modern building practices, including structural calculations and professional oversight, reflect lessons learned from tragedies like this one. Its legacy extends far beyond Boston. Even today, historians and engineers continue discussing the exact combination of factors that caused the collapse. Was brittle steel the primary problem? Did pressure from fermentation increase stress? Did temperature differences play a larger role? Or did several weaknesses combine at once? Most experts agree that multiple factors likely contributed rather than a single cause. Complex failures rarely have one simple explanation. Why was molasses so deadly? Because it behaved differently from water. Its density and viscosity created extraordinary force when millions of gallons suddenly escaped confinement. As it spread, the cold weather made movement increasingly difficult. Victims who initially survived the impact sometimes found escape nearly impossible. Understanding the physical behavior of the liquid helps explain why the disaster became so devastating. Today, historical markers remember those who lost their lives. The Great Molasses Flood is often remembered because it sounds unbelievable. But behind the strange headlines were real families, real workers, and real communities forever changed. Their story reminds us that industrial disasters are not merely engineering failures. They are human tragedies. Perhaps the greatest surprise is not that a tank burst. It is that warning signs may have been present long before the disaster. Strange noises. Growing concerns. Individually, each might have seemed manageable. Together, they formed a pattern that became clear only after catastrophe struck. History often teaches this difficult lesson. Small warnings ignored can lead to enormous consequences. More than a century later, the Great Molasses Flood remains one of the most unusual disasters in American history. Yet it is remembered not because of its strangeness alone. It is remembered because it changed engineering practices, legal accountability, and public awareness of industrial safety. The sticky tide eventually disappeared. Its lessons did not. Imagine modern engineers could travel back to Boston in January 1919. Would they recognize the danger in time? Could this disaster have been prevented with today's knowledge? Or are there warning signs around us today that future generations will wish we had noticed? History's greatest mysteries are not always buried in ancient ruins. Sometimes, they begin with a single crack in a steel wall. What do you think was the biggest lesson from the Great Molasses Flood? Share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe for more hidden history, forgotten disasters, historical mysteries, and the true stories that continue to shape our world. Please don't forget to subscribe to my page, follow, like, and share for more hidden history, untold stories, and fascinating historical mysteries.